Hey guys, first off I'd like to say that the use of this film is under the Fair Use Act for criticism and commentary. I'd like to give HBO credit for the film. They own the rights to the film shown with the intention of entertainment purposes. This is not for entertainment, this is for educational and commentary purposes. And first of all, for those of you that are new to the channel, I like to go over upcoming fights and kind of do fight breakdowns, analyzing their skills. And a fighter's skill, not, oh, they're fast, oh, they have a good right hand, oh, there's a good left hook. Those are not skills. For the most part, those are your tools, right, that you have, and your skills are the way that you either set your offense up and you land your punches, what tactics you use, your game plans, the kind of craft that you use to employ these kind of tactics or those kinds of tools so you can land your right hand, or the ways that you defend yourself, the ways that you use high-level defense to control your opponent or to feint them out of position so you're not out of position, the ways that you go about making sure that you don't get hit, whether it be controlling your opponent or just moving off of the line, and defense more in terms of positioning rather than he blocks punches really well. Anyway, I kind of look at upcoming fights, and I'll be doing one for Vasily Lomachenko versus Guillermo Rigondeaux, which is just such a great fight. I don't know if it's signed yet or not, but there aren't very many people that are in the middle. Either you like Lomachenko. Anyway, I'm excited about that fight. I'm very excited. I could talk all night about that fight right now. But we're going to be doing one on... I'm doing one right now. I'm in the midst of doing one right now against... for Gennady Golovkin versus Canelo Alvarez. And I've already broken down Gennady Golovkin versus Daniel Jacobs. And I actually have like a promo video out. It's kind of a highlight faux film study. And in the clips, if you watch carefully, everything that happens in one clip happens in the clip immediately after, but using a different fighter. And it's that style of film study throughout the entire video, except for a few random highlights, towards the end. There's just a few of them kind of going on a tear against their opponent. But you'll see instances in which Golovkin and Jacobs fight over their jab, and then you'll see the same instance of Canelo and Liam Smith, and then you see Canelo slipping the jab and trying to land the left hook, and you see the same exact technique used by Daniel Jacobs, and it's an effort to draw comparisons to figure out who's likely to come out on top in each of their fighters' respective crafts. It's a very interesting video. I don't think that it was... I don't think people paid as close of attention to the video as I was hoping they would. It is cleverly done in the film study style. I couldn't just put out like a dumbass highlight video of, oh, watch these guys punch each other in the face. Stay tuned. That's kind of lame to me. But I didn't want to just go on and re-break down the Golovkin Jacobs fight. I thought about it. I used all film from that fight in the highlight, faux film study. But I wanted to do something different, and when looking for potential candidates, obviously they all have to be right-handed. Golovkin's fought a couple southpaws. I couldn't find film study on him fighting a film of him fighting David Lemieux. Someone sent me a link to it like a while ago, but I can't download and manipulate the video, so I didn't want to just use it, and it was just kind of awkward to use it hosted from another site. I can't do slow-mo and whatever. So I'm going to go with Kell Brook, and one of the interesting things about Kell Brook is that he likes to counterpunch. One thing that I learned from the film study that I did on him and Errol Spence was that he does like to counter, and he likes to counter a lot. Every single mistake that you may make, he likes to try to make you pay for. And it's an interesting style too, because it's not like high-level boxing. Good fighters take advantage of your mistakes. Great fighters make you make mistakes. And that's going to be the difference in my opinion, in this fight, in the course of the entire fight between Golovkin and Canelo, is that Canelo is good at making you pay for your mistakes. You know, he does have good counters. He's sharp. He hits hard. But Golovkin is very good at getting you out of position and making you make mistakes. And it's really interesting because the art of boxing in that regard is that Golovkin is still going to be the one that's going first. And what I mean by that is he's going to be waiting for counters from Canelo. He's going to be waiting for those counters. And he's actually going to be baiting those counters to get Canelo to throw a punch so that he's out of position to defend himself and just walk into a shot. And that's the style of fighting that you have for probing. That's what you have. It's completely based on that, getting your opponent to go first, and then you just counter whatever they give you, right? You train on the pads, 1,000 reps of countering a right hand when a right hand comes, countering a left hook when a left hook comes, countering a jab, countering whatever punch it is, and you train like 1,000,000 reps in each camp, and then you kind of find ways to bait your opponent into throwing those punches, and making your opponent think that they're reacting to you when you're really making them react, or how do I say it? You're really making them go first because you don't have to commit to those feints and those baits. Anyway, gonna get into the film study, and this is really interesting because in the Daniel Jacobs fight, Golovkin does a pretty good job of using probes to get Danny Jacobs out of position. One thing in that fight that he does, Danny Jacobs, is he tries to fight off of Golovkin's jab all night. So every time Golovkin throws a jab, he tries to counter with left and right hooks to the body, or counter over the top with the right hand, or slide under the jab and then close the distance so that he can throw body shots. And as you see the fight develop, once Golovkin realizes that Danny Jacobs is not looking to lead and fight with him, he starts using probes to take those counters away and force those counters without having to commit to his jab so that he can counter those counters, or bait them so that he can land other shots and walk you into them as you're trying to as Danny Jacobs is trying to establish positioning. I've already demonstrated in that fight that he does use that, but this is going to be a little more interesting style between him and Kell Brook, because he doesn't use probes, and he winds up being, I don't know how to say it, a little more reckless in this fight. And it's really interesting, and I kind of want to point some of this stuff out. But right here, right off the offset, leaping left hook, doesn't set it up, and then gets under the counter, right? And it's not clear if Kell Brook is looking to counter with the jab in that instance or whatever, but Golovkin is ready for it. He knows it's coming. He ducks under it, and very smartly, and this is something I don't think that Canelo does. Canelo doesn't usually use this kind of skill, but after getting him under his punch, right, he controls his head, takes a step off the line, and then lands a great right hand. Kell Brook is a very underrated fighter for sure. He does have a lot of growth to do. I personally thought he should have been able to beat Errol Spence, but it was a good fight for however long it lasted. But anyway, leading left hook, and again, in this instance, you can't really tell whether it lands, but that's not what we're really looking at. It's not important. Just explodes out of his guard with the jab, takes a step forward, changes head slots, and it looks like Brook kind of lands half of his jab right there. It's not a solid jab, but it touches his chin, and then he's able to slip Golovkin's jab. But beautiful right here, right after, he shoots that jab and then ducks down, gets all his weight on his right leg. He could have countered a counter right there in that situation, but showing that he's ready for the counters. And that's one really interesting thing about him fighting Canelo, is that Canelo does like to counterpunch, and I do expect Canelo to kind of revert to that style in letting Golovkin lead, kind of just like how Danny Jacobs did. And like I said in that video, or that fight, I already showed how he uses the higher level tactics to get his opponent to go first, or out of position. And here I'll show a different shade of it. One that actually makes Canelo look like he has a better chance in the fight than those videos. But again, shooting the jab and then waiting for Brook to get out of position. But Brook has, really good eyes. It's not very common, and this is just like one of the tools that Brook has that a lot of fighters don't. He's just very calm in there. He's very composed, and he sees punches coming really well. That is a strength that he has for sure. But right here, Golovkin comes in, and he just opens up with that left hook, doesn't duck down this time, and walks right into the jab, but tries to counter the jab with another hook that Brook actually sees coming and is able to get out of the way. But then he ducks the second counter from him. But it's interestingly, he doesn't open up with another shot after that, and then kind of just walks into a really crisp, sharp left hook right here. Really interesting that, another thing that Golovkin showed in his Danny Jacobs fight, and I'm not sure exactly why he's not doing it here, but controlling his opponent after he misses a shot. With his forearms, putting his weight on them, pushing them around. One of the most important things in boxing is to make sure that you have your weight behind you. If someone pushes on you, that you have your hips in a way that you're going to be able to drive off of your legs to maintain your positioning, right? And one of the factors of controlling your opponent after you miss a punch is kind of pushing them off balance so that they're not able to not only transition their weight so that they can throw a counter punch, but so that they don't have the balance to move around you, to do anything. But also changing the trajectory or the angle of where their counter punch is going to go by pushing you off of balance. Anyway, getting back into it. Again, another good job of Golovkin using, very simple strategy, just using head movement off of his punches, expecting the counter to coming, shooting the jab, ducking the shot, and then good thing for Brook, and this is why in my training video I tell you never want to stay on the line with your opponent. Never, ever, ever. Anytime that you have the opportunity to slip or roll a shot, you should turn off and move off of the line. And Brook does that beautifully. If you look at his positioning right here, Golovkin shoots that jab, ducks the counter, and Brooks immediately starts moving off the line and turning, and he's able to get away from all the power from that left hook. And Golovkin is left, with his counter, or his counter, because he's baiting Kell Brook into throwing a shot so that he can land the second punch. The first punch is kind of a throwaway punch. Then he uses some head movement, closes the distance, and then looks for the repeat, the next punch. And this is a tactic I actually think is going to work very well against Canelo, because Canelo also doesn't control his opponents very well. Just like I said when Golovkin threw the first punch, that first wild left hook, Brook threw the counter, right? And it wasn't sure if it was just a counter jab that Golovkin ducked, but Brook definitely moved his hand out there, gets it on top of Canelo's head, and that's something that I don't think that he's going to be doing, Canelo's going to be doing very often, or even at all, and it's going to allow Golovkin to use his follow-up counter shots once he closes the distance. And right here, beautiful, right? Baits the counter, Brook misses his counter because Golovkin knows that it's coming and lands that kind of solid-ish left hook. It's with the inside of the glove, and I'm going to kind of break that down too. Again, getting back to boxing fundamentals for all of you that are interested in doing this yourselves. Very, very easy tutorials I have on my channel. Golovkin opens up with the right hand, turns his hips, puts all his weight on his lead left leg, and that allows him to actually move his back leg and roll a shot also at the same time because of where he transitions his weight. So shifting forward, getting under the shot because he has great fundamentals. The ability to transition his weight and move his hips at the same time to maintain an athletic posture and then roll into this shot. And Kell Brook, the reason the shot doesn't actually land, if you notice, when Kell Brook misses his counter, he kind of leaps into the shot and then falls forward. To be honest, that probably saved him. He could have walked into a much bigger shot had he not actually fallen forward onto the punch. But then very good work from Golovkin after landing that shot. Pulls Kell Brook's head up, controls him, and then tries to whack him, tries to throw him into that right hand. But Brook, being a very smart fighter, once he's in this position, gets his hand on Golovkin, you can see, and pushes off of him as he creates space. But an interesting strategy from Golovkin. He's not really using a lot of high level stuff. Just very simple. Throw a shot, slip the counter that is coming because Kell Brook is a counter puncher, and then throwing another hard punch after. And this is one thing that I also love about Golovkin with his jab. Shoots forward, closes the distance, shuffles forward, and look at how he ducks down and then controls the opponent with the second shot, right? And that's not a real punch, right? We'll watch that in real time. So shoots the jab, controls him, and then when Kell Brook starts closing the distance, he pushes him off to maintain it, And I think that Golovkin would have thrown a right hand right here, but Kell Brook, also very smart, controls him with his own lead hand and pushes him off of him. Again, the same kind of tactic. Shoots the jab, shuffles forward. And a really cool thing about that shooting the jab and then shuffling forward is when he hops forward, he puts all his weight on his right leg, shoots another jab, and with all his weight on his right leg, he's able to transition his hips, move his weight all the way to his left leg, and then throw that right hand, right? And he's got a really interesting and crafted technique that allows him to kind of do that move and then also slip jabs while he's coming in. And it comes from stuff like, and we're not going to get into that. Anyway, back to the actual film study. I kind of ramble on for anyone who's new to the channel. Sorry. Golovkin showing, he's not that hard to hit in this instance for some reason, but he's also not using his jab very well. We noticed if we go back and look at the David Lemieux fight, which I'm going to put some serious effort into finding this week because I really want to rewatch and break that fight down. I had a lot of requests for it previously. But it was a really good fight, and Golovkin just dominated him. And used his jab, which is a tool we know he has, but for some reason, he's just not using it during the course of this fight for some reason. Anyway, allowing Kell Brook, and this is the interesting thing. This is why you want to be probing, and this is why you want to control the distance between your opponents, right? So the distance between you and your opponent, that's all the space that you're going to use to set up your punches, and whoever has control of it is the one that's going to be able to set their punches up more effectively. You're going to be the one being able to use your head movement. You're going to be the one being able to feint. You're going to be the one able to set traps. You can kind of set traps if you're waiting on your opponent. But one of the problems is, as you see here, Kell Brook feints him, gets Golovkin to shell up in his guard, and he's able to take a step back. And then when Golovkin moves back onto the line out of his shell, Brook is able to time him with another shot because he comes up in the exact same spot. Kell Brook showing some high-level stuff. And after repeatedly feinting, I'm not sure exactly how many times he's feinted Golovkin during the course of this round, but after you feint your opponent so many times, he's going to stop respecting the feint, and you're able to just catch him with the shot. I think that, I'm not going to say that was a lucky shot. He landed it. That was great. He did exactly what he wanted to do. But there haven't been any instances in which he knew for a fact that Golovkin wouldn't respect the feint, especially since he had just thrown a feint. But anyway. And talking about technique real quick for those that are interested in that. So when he's moving around the ring, right, notice he turns here, and then he turns his weight back here, and then he's open again, and then he turns back. The hip placement. There's not really a reason for him to be doing this. I'm not exactly sure why he stays on the outside of the ropes. Conventional boxing knowledge says that that's where you want to be if you're the defensive fighter. But when he opens up here, he could take another angle off of this turn, right? If he opened it up a little more, or he used like a pivot off of it rather than just kind of swinging his leg open, he could have created the angle a little wider, and that allowed him to get to the middle of the ring rather than rather than kind of getting stuck on the ropes, you know. And Golovkin, don't worry, like he is great at cutting the ring off, but that's one of the reasons why you kind of want to make your turns a little wider. But interestingly, while he's skating this way, never mind. I'm getting like so many tangents, but again, same tactic, right? Baiting a hook, rolls what would be the counter. But Kell Brook doesn't want it. He's not interested in engaging, especially in that position in the ring. So he just kind of controls his arms and turns him out and makes a move for the center of the ring. Again, same tactic, right? Just kind of comes forward with the hook. He misses. Almost gets caught with a counter jab. But it's really interesting. Ooh, good pullish, like a kind of a pull counter from Brook, landing a great shot. And that's interesting too, because that's something that Canelo likes to try to do as well. I don't think that he's as fluid. I don't think he's as fluid in that instance as Brook is able to, as he is able to be in that situation. I think Canelo kind of telegraphs it a little more. You know, I don't think that anybody was kind of like, oh, he's about to do a pull counter, you know, and Brook does a good job. But right after, Brook rolls, doesn't control his opponent, and Golovkin kind of controls him and whacks him in the head. You know, so I'm curious to know if Golovkin's going to try to fight him on the inside like he's fighting Brook. And Golovkin, you know, looking very hittable, you know, and that's one thing that I wonder if it's going to change during the course of the fight between him and Canelo, because he wasn't very hittable against Danny Jacobs. You know, Danny Jacobs had a really low percent of landed punches, in my opinion, when I did the film study for scoring. And it looks like Brook is having much more success, you know, and it doesn't look like that Brook is necessarily fighting any better than Danny Jacobs, because Danny Jacobs used a lot of probing. He used his lead hand really well, and Brook doesn't even have to do that, you know. He doesn't even have to really feint. But anyway, I also wonder, you know, how much control Canelo is going to assert over Golovkin too, because he also doesn't use his lead hand in the same way. You know, when he probes, when he throws his jab out there, he usually flicks it out there and nearly commits to it. You know, nearly commits to it all the way as if it's always a punch. You know, not really kind of gauging his opponent's reaction to it, right? And kind of just setting up his offense off of that by just, you know, throwing what comes open, but not, I don't know how to say it, you know, but the fact that he commits to his jab more often than he should is troublesome to me, and he doesn't use it to make his opponents get out of position. He looks for the mistakes that they make when they do fall out of position, if that makes sense. You know, like Liam Smith, after he would see the jab, he would just shell up, and then Canelo would throw body shots, you know, a left hook to the body and then a right hand to the body, you know, and then move off the line or move back or whatever. But he didn't really control him. He didn't really, you know, do anything. So it makes me wonder if, because of the fact that Golovkin is fighting Brook in this manner, and Brook doesn't use his lead hand to control his opponents very well, if he'll fight Canelo in a similar way, because of the I don't want to say it like plays into his style, and I don't want to say like he already knows how to fight that style, you know, and so it makes me wonder if that's the strategy that he's going to use, you know, whether it be for the fans or whether it be because of the traps that he's looking to set, or getting his opponent to commit to a counter, and already knowing how to position himself into throwing other punches. Kind of in the same vein that we did the film study on Felix Diaz versus Terence Crawford, and we saw that Crawford dominated him. You know, he controlled him with his lead hand. He did everything that he wanted to do, and then somewhere in the middle rounds, he stopped controlling him because he was looking to let Diaz throw punches so he could counter them. You know, and in the same vein that he fought Julius Ndongo, just like I said in my prediction video, he's going to take advantage of the in and out style. It was the only style that Indongo knew how to fight. And rather than actually fighting Indongo, he just had one trap basically for the whole fight and waited for Indongo to walk into it repeatedly because Indongo only had one style of offense, one style of fighting, and he couldn't adjust. So maybe that's what Canelo is doing in this instance, fighting Brook, knowing that he's going to be committing to the counters like that. And setting his punches up in that regard with a trap, And to be honest, I wouldn't really recommend it against Canelo. But anyway, throws the right hand, shifts forward, rolls the counter, but Brook gets a hold of his head and then loses control of him and winds up in a horrible position. And then this is where Golovkin is one of his most dangerous. Able to feint and probe and use those jabs to get Kell Brook already leaning back, right? Moving away from the jabs, right? Not transitioning his weight, and then nowhere to go and no way to get away from that right hand, and nowhere to go to get away from any of these punches because he's just kind of stuck on the ropes and just kind of gets clobbered, And another thing that he does really well, Mr. Canelo, or Mr. Golovkin, after he lands that right hand, he immediately moves his right hand back to Brook to control him so he can't go anywhere, holding him there so he can't transition his weight, he can't move away, and it allows him to throw more punches against Brook while he struggles to get into a position in which he can defend himself. But boom, just brilliant job from Golovkin in this situation. And it's another interesting thing about it is we also know that Canelo likes to fight off the ropes. He likes to draw his opponents in. That's how he knocked Liam Smith out. After he broke his hand, he knocked him out with the left hook to the liver while fighting off of the ropes, I believe. But again, great job from Golovkin. Shoots that jab, shuffles forward, ducks what could be a counter, probes with the lead hand. Control him. Ooh, and I can't really tell if that left hook from Brook lands. It looks like it hits him right in the head, but it also doesn't make sense because his glove is there too. Golovkin's glove is there. Let's watch it in. Yeah, it looks like it does touch him on the chin. Really sneaky shot too. Really sneaky shot. Gets all his weight into it. Really good shot from him. He does eat a jab for his trouble, but, I'd trade a hook for a jab any day. Controlling him with the lead hand. Shoots the right hand. Shifts forward. Controls him with the right hand. And then throws the left over the top. And this looks kind of sloppy, right? He kind of does get a little tangled up. But he very intelligently... Ooh, moves off of the line and doesn't stay in front of Brook after he misses that huge punch, right? And then is able to get back on the line with him, cut the ring off, and again, use his lead hand, control him with the lead hand, and then throw a right hand over the top, And I'm not sure exactly where that right hand goes. It looks like he might even miss. It looks like he might have been expecting Brook to duck a little more. But doing a good job of probing in those instances. And this is really interesting too, because I wonder how often Golovkin is going to allow Brook to throw punches at him. I don't really see a rhyme or reason for him to allow Brook to throw these punches. And they're not landing like super clean. Actually, that one looks like it was pretty good. But that one's around the guard, not a hard punch. This one looks like it does make it through the guard. This one's blocked. And then good for him, controlling him after with the lead hand. I'm not sure if he walks into this left hook here. It looks like it was blocked. Ooh. Beautiful. And now, maybe now we kind of get to see why Golovkin was leading with the left hook Remember, like, all those times, not really setting the punch up, not really doing shit with it, right? Just kind of like looking a little sloppy, throwing that lead left hook to the head, you know. But this time, he makes the same exact motion, right? And he goes to the body instead. And he gets Brook to bring his hand up because he thinks it's going to be a headshot. And then he goes low and lands a body shot. Beautiful work. And that's trap setting 101. Those are the most basic traps where you're committing to punches that put you in danger so that you can trick your opponent into thinking that punch is coming later and landing one. Canelo has a very similar trap that he sets. It's the one he stole from Mayweather, where you shoot the jab to the face really quick, you step with it, step with the jab to the body, step with the jab to the head, and then you start stepping and throwing wide left hooks instead, because you get your opponent to try to catch the jab instead, and then when they go to catch it, they move their right glove forward and get smacked in the head with your left hook. And when you're fast and when you step with your shot, that trick, that little trap almost always works. It was actually one of my favorite when I used to box. But Mr. Golovkin coming in here, and very smart, you know. Brook has, you know, a great ring sense, you know. Gets really out of position right there as he's crossing, and is able to take a step back and get away from that shot from Golovkin, and kind of land a counter while he's transitioning. But look at this, boom! He just gets stuck on the line with him because he doesn't control him. He doesn't move out. See, he has his hand on him, but he's not controlling him, you know. He should be pushing off on his collarbone or, you know, doing something or ducking or taking an angle, you know, but he doesn't and just gets caught with a big shot, you know, staying on the line that he was just on. And now, again, I don't know why Golovkin is allowing him to throw punches at him, you know, exactly what he's baiting or what he's trying to do. Oh, man. Beautiful. So he dips down here and baits him into throwing that left hook, you know, and I think that he was able to call that left hook because that's like the fourth time or so that Brook has been able to land it, a short left hook when he comes inside. And it was the same exact situation where earlier in the round he tried to do a wide left hook and Brook just kind of turned into him and got him with the good left hook. So Golovkin's showing that he's picking up on the patterns of Brook, or Golovkin showing that he's picking up the patterns of Brook, and then again, getting him on the ropes, you know. Ooh, beautiful. Shoots the overhand right, steps, rolls the shot, but Brook is able to, you know, time it. He knows what he's doing. He's seen it a few times, and then gets under the counter, and then they kind of hug it out, I guess. It looked like Golovkin was gonna control him with his lead hand. You know, and this is really interesting, you know. Golovkin just allowing him to throw punches at him. You know, is there a reason why? Does anybody think that there's a reason why? Was he hurt, you know? It's a good right hand around the guard. Golovkin kind of shelling up. Lands a good uppercut. Lands a couple good shots. Has a better left hook than Brook. Shorter, crisper. And that instantly gets Brook to stop throwing those punches. But, you know, I'm just curious, to be honest, because I don't think that that's a strategy that he should employ against Canelo. I think that Canelo might be able to land punches that are hard enough to hurt him. You know, I don't actually think so. But he might. You know, you never really know. But really interesting, you know, we kind of get to see Golovkin not use his A skills, and in my opinion, I think he does have A skills. I know that it's not the most common boxing opinion, I guess. You know, not a lot of people have that much faith in Gennady Golovkin. They think he's just a puncher. He's also an incredible athlete. He's incredibly smart. You kind of saw him set a trap and take advantage of another trap that his opponent was setting for him. He has a good game plan. It's not the greatest, you know. He could do better, But, not really worried about taking a couple shots from Mr. Brook here. And to be honest, I kind of expect him to fight this kind of fight against Canelo. I think that Danny Jacobs might be a bigger puncher than Canelo because of the fact that Canelo is not nearly as big as Jacobs. Not that he has better punch technique. Danny Jacobs, in my opinion, Danny Jacobs is a better fighter than Canelo. But Canelo's going to have more success because he has better tools. He's faster. He's much sharper. His execution of his fight tactics is much more precise. Danny Jacobs is really sloppy. He's really, really sloppy. But he had a beautiful game plan, and he has great boxing knowledge. He had great use of his lead hand. He had traps that he had set, before the fight even started for Golovkin. He had a great game plan. And none of that mattered. Golovkin completely outfought him in every single way. And I just don't think that Canelo, while I do think that Canelo has better tools, I just don't think he's going to pose as much of a challenge as Danny Jacobs did. And I do think that he kind of let Danny Jacobs work the 12 rounds. I think he could have knocked him out much sooner. But anyway, this is just the first round. I'll do a couple more rounds of this. Maybe I'll do the whole fight. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. This is a 30-minute round. But an interesting style from Golovkin, not really controlling him and using hard punches to set up transitions to close the distance to land other hard punches. Really interesting. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Like I said, I'll do a couple more rounds.